So today we're going to make some good choices. We're going to talk about making the right hardware choices. But first, we're going to start with a pop quiz. It may sound like kind of silly, but do you want to sell more or support more? What would you rather do? Be out selling or out supporting? And do you want more referenceable customers? And you may think these are silly questions, but not really, because we've seen quite often in our time, not only with the Windows product, but also with the Aldelo Express product, where referral partners have made some poor choices with regard to hardware, and that has cost them dearly. It has put them into a support mode, trying to support that bad hardware when they should have bought good hardware to begin with. Because just one simple fact, the best software installed on crap hardware will reduce that software just to a crap solution. So hardware has a lot to do with the quality of the install and the happiness of the customers. So what do our competitors do? Well, they control their own hardware. The other top three brands all control their own hardware. They have their own proprietary systems, and they are proprietary in that you cannot run other software on their hardware. They've locked it out. So why do they do this? Well, it may not be for profit, may not be what you're thinking about. It is more likely it's all about controlling the environment, controlling the software and hardware together in one package. That way they have less support problems putting their software on other people's hardware. They're concerned about their software being on untested hardware. And it's also easier to develop on a specific platform that you can control. So that's the real reason that they're controlling their environment. Is they want to make sure that they have their software on their hardware and they control the entire system. We take a different approach. We take an approach of more freedom of choice within limits. And those limits are there as a means of protecting, not restricting. So who are we protecting? Well, we're protecting you, the merchant, and us. Just like we have these safer barriers here on this presentation. These are to keep in NASCAR, keep the cars on the track and not get them up into the stands. So these safer barriers and these fences are to keep everyone safe. And that's kind of how we're doing it as well. We're going to give you the freedom of choice within limits. Always trust the software vendor when it comes to what hardware to put their software on. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, there's different types of hardware we're going to talk about. Uninterrupted power supplies, cell-enabled hardware, cash drawers, printers, KDS, and then terminals and kiosks. I've lumped those two together. So let's get into the individual pieces that we're talking about. First up, uninterrupted power supplies, UPSs. They're rarely proposed. We rarely see these being put on a proposal. And that's sad. That's too bad, because the value is not seen until it's too late. You're not going to see the need for a uninterrupted power supply until you start seeing power outages and flashes and brownouts. You're not going to know how important they are until it's too late. And for a minimal investment, you can have protection for your system that is going to protect against lightning strikes and those type of things. It's often overlooked. It's really something that needs to be taken a good long look at. And it's truly needed in all areas. No matter what part of the country you're in, you're going to have those situations where there are just momentary lapse of power can take the system down and prohibit a smooth operation. These not only protect against storms, but they protect against bad power. Bad power meaning it's not a consistent flow of clean energy through the system. A brownout is a perfect example of that. It's not clean. It reduces the amount of voltage, And in that case, it's going to cause problems with the system. A uninterrupted power supply will continue to flow good power without any surges. This will absolutely extend the life of the hardware. Think of a power surge as kind of like a little pickaxe. It's just tapping away and tapping away and tapping away. Eventually, it's going to tap through whatever protections are at that terminal level. I believe so much in this that every device in our home has an uninterrupted power supply. Living in Florida, I've known about this for years, actually decades. So for that length of time, I've always had a UPS on our system. And it's so valuable that I have it on the router, I have it on the modems and everything here in my office. I have it on every electronic device in this house. That is to protect everything from those Florida surges and lightning strikes. But we had a customer this past week who was having issues with the flooding in their basement. And that flooding was causing their electricity to go out. But he'd already converted his kitchen to gas. He had the ability to cook, gas stove, gas oven. He needed his system to run for an extended period of time without power, more than just 10 or 15 minutes. So what we are proposing he do is move to a battery backup for his devices. This is just one option here. This one is $500. It's not much when you consider what he's going to do with it. This will run the kitchen printers. It will run the ability to charge his devices because it has USB charging ports on the front, as well as a regular outlet. This provides up to 24 hours of coverage before it needs a charge. So he can run his restaurant, his point of sale, and his printers, and then as well, his kitchen is on gas. If you want to charge this with solar, you can. Solar panels are an option. This particular one has the ability to have 400 watts of solar plugged into it. So you can run the solar outside, run this on the inside, and your operations continue to run. So be aware that there are options with regard to uninterrupted power, as well as running the entire system on a battery. Next up, let's talk about cell phone enabled devices. That is literally adding a SIM card to either the modem or the tablet to make them able to be on the internet at all times. I've given you an image here of a sample, but there are dozens and dozens of different ones you can have that are able to be plugged in to power that will then go onto the internet through a cell phone. These can be as an entire system can run on these. You can have an entire system through like a food truck where it's or a festival. You can have internet even outdoors away from the restaurant by simply using one of these cell phone enabled devices, whether it's a tablet or a modem. They can always be a backup for the existing system. This means literally that if the internet goes out, these switch over automatically. The restaurant is never aware that there is an outage on the internet unless they're checking their router. The system's going to run one way or the other. I called yesterday to check about seeing about a SIM card for my system. I have an AT&T, and it was it's $20 a month was what it would be cost to have a SIM card, an additional line in a SIM card for my system, for me. AT&T in my case would provide me the SIM card at no charge, and it would be $20 a month. You can get these for anywhere from 20 to 30 a month. Well, we've seen that be the price. And you only need one device per system. So if you put your SIM card in your cell-enabled router, that covers the entire system. You do have the option for putting it into one of the devices itself in one of the tablets. If you are setting up the system in a certain way, you can have the device be the cell-enabled point of contact for the internet. This then gives you the no downtime. There will be no downtime in the system. And therefore, there's no need for offline mode. Offline mode has become a thing of the past. We keep getting questions about, does our system have offline mode? Well, we have something better. We have the ability to keep you connected 24/7, no matter if you do have a stable internet connection or not. Next up is cache drawers. This will be a simple one. It's 2 per device. You can have a maximum of 2 different cache drawers on one device. That can be different sizes. They make a 4 bill and a 5 bill cache drawer. This particular one is a 5 bill. And then they also come in different colors. This one is a 4 bill. So that's the different sizes. So 2 sizes, 2 colors. What is required is they must be printer driven. That means you plug them into the back of the printer, the receipt printer, and the signal is sent through the receipt printer that then triggers the cache drawer and pops the drawer open. Must have the proper cables. You can't really see on this one, but these cable ends are different sizes. So you have to be able to have the special cable that goes with that printer. Epson compatible will not work ever. So on an Aldelo Express system, if it's Epson compatible, that's not going to work. It must have iOS drivers and be tested prior to use. Don't take somebody's word for it that it's working. If it's not already a tested printer for us, don't take a chance. Have it tested. Star and Epson are the only 2 options at this point, and you can find out what printer models are acceptable on our tested hardware page on our website. You can have up to 20 printers. Tested models are listed, and don't be afraid to put a thermal printer in the kitchen. The paper that's out nowadays takes a lot longer to turn brown or black in the kitchen, so don't be afraid of that. We are installing thermals in our systems a lot, so don't worry about it. Next up is KDS, Kitchen Display Systems. They are iPad only, but they will work on any iPad. Android is not an option. You can have up to 20 devices in the system, and you can have an iPad mini as the bump bar. That means simply you can put the small iPad, the inexpensive small iPad in the system. That's what's going to drive the orders going to the kitchen. And then you can use this device, which is a connector. It goes into the USB-C port on the side of the iPad. It then runs, you can connect a HDMI cable to a larger monitor, and it will drive the signal to that monitor. This connector also has a USB-C for the power. So you're going to be able to charge the iPad and send the signal to the larger monitor using this connector. I found them on Amazon between $16 and $44. So it's not a big deal. Next up are Kiosks. This is also iPad only, and it's any iPad that you want to use. As you see from this image, there are a lot of different stands that you can use. They don't have to be an enclosure. They can just be a stand, or they can be tabletop. Whichever you decide to do, it is iPad only. It requires 1 POS device. So you have to have one Aldelo Express iPad in the system for it to run and coordinate the orders. So you need 1 device, but that then allows you to have up to 998 kiosk devices in the system. So it's just an unreal number once you get past that 1 POS device. However, what we're seeing is there are hardware companies trying to sell the larger Android screens. These are the 2-foot high, large Android screens. And they are literally thousands of dollars when you get the enclosure. And we're asking why? Because what we're seeing is that the QR code is replacing the need for those expensive kiosks. Why spend thousands of dollars on a hardware terminal for a kiosk when you can use the QR code and the customer's own device? No hardware to buy, and you'll get more people ordering off their phones, off their own devices, than you will through a kiosk. This is something we've seen and through implementation. Next up, are handheld terminals. PAX A60, 920 Pro. Both of these are Wi-Fi devices, but they're also both cell-enabled devices. So you can have a chip in SIM card in these devices and take them beyond the restaurant. Both of these devices can be taken on a delivery route by a driver where they can pay at the door. It also can be the entire solution for those food trucks or small cafes or very small coffee shops. This can be their entire point of sale terminal. This one device, it handles everything. It handles point of sale. It handles the credit card dip, chip, swipe. It handles all of that. It can then drive a KDS and printers, all from that one device. So don't overlook the small footprint. It is a very powerful device. Next up, full POS terminals. Now, got 3 rules. Number 1, don't take shortcuts. And shortcuts meaning, well, it's cheap. Well, cheap? No, should not be the driving force of your decision for hardware, even though your customer may be pushing that direction. You have to be the adult in the room, and you have to stop them from making a bad choice, because their bad choice on hardware is going to lead to a lot more support on your end. Don't get fooled and don't get hooked. Don't take shortcuts. Next, rule number 2, don't get fooled by the bling. I can't tell you how many times we get calls from referral partners saying, oh, but this is a nice looking terminal. So it may be nice looking, but it don't work. You have to be careful about which hardware platform you're being sold. And that's exactly what's happening, is you're being sold some hardware by a vendor who got stuck with a bunch of Windows terminals that they had nothing to do with now. The hardware companies got behind. They did not jump ahead and get with the shift to Android like they should have. And they've got a bunch of hardware that runs on Windows. They're trying to move them any way they can. Don't get fooled by the bling. And number 3, listen to the software developer. We test our software on the various hardware platforms, and I can tell you, a lot of them don't pass. They just don't work. They're not what you are being sold. So trust the software vendor. We are testing our software on their platforms and can tell you which ones work and which ones don't. It's just the simple fact. The best software installed on crap hardware is still a crap solution. I'm reminding you of this because this is where a lot of you have tried to go down the wrong path, and we've stopped you. So we're telling you why now. As far as iPad POS, the software is written to run on the current iOS. That is the company statement. That's the firm statement. It's written to run on the current iOS, and it will run on any iPad that runs the current iOS. Those 2 are the definitive statements that we will always stick to. However, will it run on older versions? Probably so. We have a lot of installs who are out there on older versions of iOS. So we do know that they do work. And even though Apple likes you to upgrade on a very regular basis, probably every 2 years, you don't have to. We do know that some of our older installs still work on the current version of Aldelo Express. iPad stands, yeah, you can get those from various manufacturers. You can get them on Amazon. Your customer can find them on Amazon. Your customer may already have iPads. That's the case, they probably will work, especially if they were using the current iOS. If they do that, we have no problem with that. This particular stand came from a company called POS Tabs. Your MSA person or our partner success team can point you in the right direction with regard to that stand. On the iOS, our software takes full advantages of all the iOS features of the operating system and the iPad. We use both cameras. We also have the gestures, and we take advantage of other features of the hardware with regard to our software. It is written to run natively on an iPad. As far as Android goes, the device must have a CPU minimum of a quad core. It obviously can have more, but a minimum quad core and 1.7 gigahertz or faster, and be at least 10 inches or bigger. And that's because the Aldelo Express is going to look at the device to make sure that it meets those specifications. If it doesn't, it won't even show up in the search. So you have to at least have this before we will consider looking at the terminal. You'd be shocked to see how many hardware platforms come to us to get approval that can't meet these specifications. Now, I personally run a Lenovo tablet, Android tablet, and it runs just fine. But here are some other tablets that we have tested from Galaxy, and you'll see various sizes. What is required minimum here is Android 8 and up. I think mine's on 10, but nonetheless, this is what will work. We've tested. It cannot be an Intel chip set. You will find a lot of these vendors who have been stuck with Intel hardware running Windows are now trying to sell that hardware by putting a kernel on the device. The device must have the Google Play Store app loaded on it. And that's where a lot of these guys fall short. They are rigging up their system to run a Android kernel or a subset in that device, but not all of them can get the Google Play Store. So why is that so important? That's where you're going to get the updates. So you got to have that Play Store, because that's where we're going to load in the new software that's then going to update automatically. Without the Google Play Store, you're not going to get that. So some hardware manufacturers have taken our software and they load it. They claim to be able to run our software. And you may have some telling you that. But what they're doing is they're masking their Windows units with a software overlay. Come to us, we'll tell you whether it will run or not. And if we say no, that's it. Walk away. You don't want that terminal. You don't want those problems that are going to come up. So here's the final thing I'd like you to think about. I want you to create some hardware bundles. I want you to create your own bundles when you walk in and you're going to talk to the customer. You're going to show them the system. I want you to create an economy bundle, a budget-friendly bundle, and then an all-in-one. That all-in-one is what you should lead with. You should show the prettiest, the sexiest, the best-looking system you can. Lead with that all-in-one solution. Then when the customer says, that's too much money, I don't want to spend that kind of money, well, then that gives you two lesser options to fall back on. You can fall back on the budget friendly or maybe the economy. The economy being an Android tablet, 10, 12-inch tablet on an inexpensive Amazon stand. Going with a small cash drawer, star printer, you got it. That's your economy bundle. Don't go overboard with the pricing. Remember, they can look for their own pricing and probably will shop you. So be prepared for that. Understand, you're not going to make a living selling hardware. In the industry in this day and time, nobody's making a real good living selling hardware. So don't lose the system sale over the hardware price. Come up with an economy bundle, a budget-friendly bundle, and an all-in-one solution. Lead with the all-in-one, and then come back and lower the price by lowering the hardware. All right, what about questions? I like Henry's suggestion of the 10.2 iPads. You have to get the 90-degree power cable. You can do that, and it really will help with the exit of that cable and not put a strain on that one connector. And that one connector is why we don't do the mag card readers. we use the cameras on the iPads. They're faster and they don't break like those man card readers do when you plug them into a USB-C.